2+ years into the pandemic, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu announced a new phase of an initiative that Mayor Kim Janey started last year called All-Inclusive Boston. The goal?
We are trying to do everything possible to get folks back into our city. There is something for everyone in our city, and we want all of our neighborhoods and communities to be not only welcoming, but connected to each other as well.
To that end, phase 2 of the campaign is named after something the city is pretty well known for, Boston accents, but with a twist, as their ad highlights.
이거는 내 버스턴 억양이에요.
You hear that? This is my Boston accent.
This is my Boston accent.
Yeah, it is.
Shh, this is my Boston accent.
I love the ad. $1.5 million will go towards marketing like that and other ways to get the word out that Boston has a lot more to it than many may think. That's on top of the $2.5 million poured into the campaign last summer aimed at driving traffic to local businesses. I'm joined by Colette Philips. Colette's the president and CEO of Colette Philips Communications. What else would it be? She's heading up the campaign with Mayor Wu's office. We're also joined by Martha Sheridan. She's president and CEO of the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. Colette, it's good to see you. Martha, good to meet you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Colette, could you expand a little bit on what the mayor said? What is the goal? Who's the target of this campaign?
Well, there are multiple targets, really. We want to expand, and Martha will talk more about this, sort of our visitor demographics. We want to encourage more diverse people to come to Boston. And we also want to make sure that we are spotlighting and amplifying the neighborhoods, the culture, the cuisine, the taste, the sound, all that truly makes Boston a vibrant, diverse, inclusive city.
So, Martha, Colette said you'd expand on what she just said, so expand away.
Sure. So before we launched the first iteration of this campaign, our agency didn't have quite a lot of funding, but we were doing some work around amplifying the businesses in the neighborhoods. This campaign allowed us to really, really put that effort on steroids and really show what's different and unique about Boston. What's happening in Boston beyond Fenway Park to Faneuil Hall. You know, where can people go that are looking for a really, truly local experience? And this campaign allows us to do that. We are definitely taking people off the traditional path and bringing them into some of Boston's most unique and culturally diverse areas. And you know, as Colette said, it's twofold. It's about showcasing the diversity of our city, but it's also about attracting a more diverse visitor to Boston as well.
You know, before we talk about year 2, which was announced this morning, let's talk about year 1 a minute. Here's a little excerpt from the first campaign ad in April of last year.
Whatever you seek, whoever you are, there's a place for you here. Our doors are open. Our tables are set. This is Boston, and we are all inclusive.
Colette, do we know how year 1 went? Do we know if it was successful or not?
Year 1 was extremely successful.
How do you know that?
On multiple levels, because Martha is able to keep metrics. We had more people who visited the city than was expected because of COVID and the pandemic. And there were many small businesses that saw an uptick in their businesses, like Urban Grape, that said their business grew almost by 75% because they were featured in the all-inclusive campaign.
Great couple, by the way. They've been here many a time. Martha, how do you know who those additional people are? Do you know those added numbers? Do you know what they look like, who they are, where they're from?
We do. Well, we know enough about them. You know, we've got tracking devices, so to speak, on every ad. We pixel it so that we can trace someone's journey from the moment they see an ad and click on it to the moment they hopefully book a trip to Boston. And we do know that as a result of the ads affiliated with the first iteration of this campaign, thousands of flights were booked and thousands of hotel rooms were booked. So that's what we wanted. Mind you, we know it could have done better, but we were in the midst of the pandemic,
But
and there was definitely a roller coaster.
But Martha, my question, I should have been more precise. Do we know that it was a more diverse set of people visiting the city than prior to the campaign?
That we don't know because we haven't done our follow-up surveys, but we will be doing that this time.
You know, Colette, how hard a nut is this to crack? I mean, you all know this better than I. We all know that horrible survey of Black Americans in 2017 when they had to rate 8 major American cities, which was the least welcoming. We won in a landslide. Won is a poor choice of words. How hard is that to overcome with an ad campaign? I mean, we do have a different city leadership. I'm sure that helps in a big time kind of way, but how hard is that to overcome?
Well, I think part of what needs to happen, this campaign is not just for people who are coming to Boston, but for those of us who live here in Boston. I came to this city as a student at age 17 and graduated, left, and came back. And I stayed because there is something very special about this city. And I think most people who are of color, who live and stay here, feel exactly the same way. And now we want other people to see the Boston that we know and see.
Martha, I want to show you a headline from the New York Times in which the Convention and Visitors Bureau of Boston is quoted. Once a hub of strife, Boston woos black tourists. Do you know what year that story was in the New York Times? Time's up. 2006. 16 years ago, this effort was made. Quickly, if you can, Martha, how hard is it to overcome all of the traditional attitudes about Boston amongst people of color?
It's difficult. I'm not going to lie. You know, we hear it day in and day out, but I will tell you, when I've socialized this campaign across the country with my counterparts, my colleagues, and they're all of a very diverse nature. They love it. It's eye-opening, and it's definitely starting to shift the narrative. So
spend the last minute, Colette. Describe year 2, this campaign. We showed a little video, Boston accents, the diverse nature of Boston's accents. Fill in the blanks for us if you can.
Well, this campaign is about driving tourists and residents alike of the Commonwealth and of our city from downtown Boston to our neighborhoods, particularly for under-visited and underrepresented businesses. And to say, Boston, you don't have to just do the Seaport or Faneuil Hall. You could go to Roxbury, Dorchester, Roslindale, East Boston, and really enjoy the food, the people, and the culture and the vibrancy of the unique diversity that are now Boston's neighborhoods.
Colette, I only have a couple of seconds. Am I right that last year's contract was the single largest of its kind given to a firm run by a woman of color in the city's history? Is that true?
It was the single largest contract, non-construction, that was given to a minority-owned company.
That would be you. Colette Philips, it's great to see you. Martha Sheridan, great to meet you. Good luck with the campaign. It looks great.
Thank you.